Welcome to Cybersecurity Sense, a weekly podcast providing updates and insight into the latest in cybersecurity, brought to you by LBMC Information Security. Now, here's your host.
Hi, I'm Bill Dean, Senior Manager here at LBMC Security. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to discuss how your users are arguably your largest threat. Some of the material we will cover this week originates from a hightech-answers.net article titled, How Will Your Employees Get You Hacked? Of course, the link to the article will be in the show notes. In more than 10 years of responding to security incidents, both large and small, the actions of a user have contributed to the overwhelming majority of the incidents that I've been involved. As we know, human error is one of the most common reasons for compromises, and their actions can circumvent most every security control you have invested in. Therefore, security awareness training is critical in an effort to prevent your users from being your number one risk. The article covers some very good points of conversation to help support or gain support for your user awareness training initiatives and potentially budget. 1. Just being lazy. Employees often feel that it's not their job to worry about IT security. That is, the IT security group will take care of them. They may take actions at the corporation that they would never take at home because they assume that smart people are taking care of them. And that's a pretty good assumption, but what they realize is that we can't take care of everything. Unfortunately, they just do not realize how important they are to the entire information security process. Many organizations often lack adequate IT security resources, especially equipped to handle more sophisticated attacks from nation states, that employees need to know that they are a target for these cyber criminals. This enables a cyber criminal the ability to obtain the sensitive information by tricking the user or getting the user to make a poor decision. Therefore, they must understand that it is their responsibility to help the organization identify and thwart any type of an attack. Number 2, unprotected email. Email hacking continues to be one of the most popular cybercrimes, with millions and possibly billions of stolen emails and subsequent email credentials for sale on the dark web. Recent attacks such as the DNC quickly come to mind. Employees often do not have multi-factor authentication enabled on their remote access to email. This allows hackers to easily access those email accounts if they can obtain those credentials somehow. This is one of the most prominent attacks that we are seeing in our incident response practice for probably the last 12 to 18 months. We've talked about the business email compromise. Now it's a lot of phishing to get credentials to log into other people's email accounts. Once that hacker is in the email account, they have free range to access any data that may be stored in the account, such as personally identifiable information or PII, credit card data, EPHI, and even additional login credentials. What we're also seeing is once they've done that, many times they'll use that account to send, air quote, trusted email to others that person may already have a relationship. Unfortunately, this many times goes to external organizations. Multi-factor verification or authentication is possible in most popular email platforms. Typically, it's the web interface that we're seeing that's being attacked. After the multi-factor authentication is enabled, a code will simply be sent to the user's phone so they can enter that additional credential to make it more difficult for the cyber criminals to get into that email account. If this would have been in place, I can think of at least 12 incidents that we would not have had to have worked for our clients, and numerous of those, there ended up being a disclosure because of it. If you've got Outlook Web Access or O365 in place, I strongly compel you to consider multi-factor authentication, or if you don't need that web interface, turn it off altogether. Number 3, surprise, surprise, phishing emails. According to the cybersecurity company PhishMe, now relabeled as or rebranded as Cofense, 91% of cyber attacks begin with a spear phishing email. It's the simplest method. In these phishing emails, hackers design the email to authenticate. It is so believable that the employee thinks it's coming from the real source it's claiming to come from. And sometimes it is actually coming from a legitimate source. Maybe it's a survey, or maybe it's open an attachment, or maybe it's from someone that they do business with. These phishing emails may appear to come from a credible company's customer support department, Microsoft, Google, or even a boss or, like I said, another colleague. In many cases, once the employee falls for the phishing scam, their computer or their mobile device may become infected with malware, or maybe they may end up providing credentials for someone else to log into that specific email account. 4. Lousy passwords. Splash Data reported that the most common password in use today is 123456. That is just sad. Not only is this a very weak password to begin with, but people are often reusing these same weak passwords that are easy to crack across multiple websites and multiple accounts, as well as sharing them with coworkers. And I have no idea why people continue to do this. One part of most every penetration test that we perform is a function that we call password spraying. We'll get a list of usernames and then some commonly used passwords that very slowly we'll try a username and a password combination to where we don't lock out the account and then we're not detected. 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 passwords for a user account over maybe a 3-hour time period. So we do this almost each and every time. And the reason that we do that is because it bears fruit. Oftentimes it bears fruit. Summer 2018 with a capital S and an exclamation point at the end meets most password complexities. It also meets our desire to find a very easily used password. Number 5, no backups. And so this one really isn't talked about enough, but I do want to address it. There is a good possibility that at least one employee in your company isn't backing up the data he or she is supposed to be backing up. This can be a major problem. Most of this is due predominantly to local storage of important data on mobile devices, laptops or iPads or tablets or something like that. Not only is there a risk of these files being lost due to technical issues, bad hard drive, you get stolen, there's also danger in losing these files to a cyber criminal. So for instance, if there's a ransomware attack, they're going to lock those files. And so if you don't have backups or other copies of those files, you've lost access to them. And sometimes, as we know, even after the ransom is paid, there just isn't a guarantee that the files are going to be returned. So be sure you're making backups. There are things you can do. Be sure that you're synchronizing the My Documents, have policies, have things in place just to be sure that this doesn't happen. Most of this information isn't new, but it is always good to remind everyone. So a couple of takeaways. Users are often the last line of defense in your cybersecurity efforts. And there's no patch for people. People want to be helpful, and they want to do the right thing. That's what the attackers are definitely taking advantage of. Simply stated, test them, train them, test them again. Pre-texting. If someone is calling and asking for information, we're just now finishing up an engagement that through financial fraud, they would call the correct people, posing as the vendor, getting usernames and passwords that they can log into a website and get information of direct financial value. Phishing. We've covered this. Last podcast we covered it. We're covering it again here. Train your users on phishing. You can have spear phishing, in which it's very customized and are compromising systems. KnowBe4 is a good platform if you want to do consistent long-term metric type phishing with follow-up training. Lots of options here. At this point, there's really not an excuse not to have a good security awareness training program around phishing. Baiting. Believe it or not, still dropping USB drives in parking lots with enticing file names such as executive bonuses Q1 2018, people still click on it. In many instances, they click on it many times, 4, 5, 6 times to be sure that they can open that document. Well, when they open that document, we have benign malware that could have been bad malware. It tells us the user, the computer, the IP address. So people will still, insert unknown USB devices and try to open those files. And then good old-fashioned tailgating. Physical security is very important. The old verbiage is, if we can get physical access to a computer, we own that computer. Some upcoming speaking engagements. I will be speaking at Knoxville Bar's Law Practice Today Expo on April 18th of 2018. I will be giving my cybersecurity basics on how not to get hacked. Of course, if you want more information on this, they'll be in the show notes. In closing, thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. As always, if you have a particular topic you would like to hear in this podcast, please contact me at bdean@lbmc.com. To learn more about LBMC Security and the services we provide, please visit lbmcsecurity.com.